One of these days, I'm gonna be up there, Pa.
Takes more than just wishing, don't it, son?
Sure, you gotta go after it.
And you're stuck on it, eh?
That's right, Pa.
Then you go right ahead and put in your application.
I already have.
Hello and welcome to my Model Corner Project 35, where we'll build and furnish this 48 scale TBD-1 Devastator torpedo bomber with paint and details. Although this kit centers on an aircraft assigned to the Torpedo Squadron, VT-6, we'll also present information and images relating to the sister Devastator units of Torpedo Squadron 3 and probably the most well-known of all, Torpedo Squadron 8.
These lads are no machines coming off a hasty assembly line. Each one is an individual with a particular personality and with special abilities. The best qualities in each are encouraged.
We'll start by preparing the parts of the cockpit and rear gunner seat as well as the main fuselage and wings for a base coat of silver paint in order to create paint chipping effects later on. Although I tried to spread out information on the model build and Devastator historical information, it may still be overwhelming. Please pause the video as necessary. It should be noted that the parts to our torpedo are included on the sprues even though it's completely omitted in the instructions and the parts checklist. Apparently in Great Wall Hobby's rush to make various box editions of this same model, they made some errors transferring information to these kits. There are at least 14 mistakes on the callouts between instructions and the actual part numbers on the photo etch fret. Before we can make the fuselage halves, we'll need to accomplish the cutting, sanding, and painting of multiple parts that are required within the internal fuselage. We have a number of paints to apply and it can make for a busy picture, so I've omitted some of the images of the paint bottles here. I wasn't sure how thin the decals for the displays were, so I put a background of white paint in order to highlight the dials. Also, it was a bit of a chore to get these tiny decals on. Although we have quite a number of pieces to add to the overall model, they all fit easily.
one survivor of Torpedo 8 at Midway is George Gay, today an airline pilot.
Most of us were brand new ensigns right out of training. When we got to Midway and were to make our takeoff, it was the first time we'd ever carried a torpedo, pickle as we called them. I couldn't use this hand. I had a bullet in here and one in this arm. The Zeros jumped on me again out on the other side and shot me down. So when I came back to the surface, I didn't want them to pick me up. So I put this cushion over my head, and I would turn this sideways to any ship or anything that was close, and I could watch them out of the corner. I'd see through this thing. They were looking at me with binoculars, but they'd see this thing and assume that it was a box or a piece of debris or something rather than my head bobbing up out there, and they passed me up and picked me up in this PBY. Took me into Midway. I lost about 24 pounds during that time. When I got down to Pearl Harbor and the Admiral came in, Admiral Nimitz, he said he wanted to know about it. A fisheye view and a front row seat to the biggest naval battle in history. Well, I'm kind of proud of that. I don't want to go through it again just to lose 24 pounds, but it was something to remember.
The view of the landing gear bays is limited, and there is no detail molded within. Even though we're not taking advantage of the folding wings option in this instance, both sides of the folding wings have the ribs inserted to maintain the structure and shape of the wings as well as provide a larger area for gluing the sections together. As you already might know, I like to be able to freely spin the propellers on my aircraft. I frequently double-checked that the propeller drive shaft would easily turn as well as maintain a protective barrier in this area. Even though decals are provided for the propeller tips, we can mask and paint in each color. My masking ended up being uneven, as you can see, and these had to be touched up. Using a fine grit sanding stick, we can do some chipping on the leading edge of the propeller blades. Next, we add the blade manufacturer emblem decals. As we put the engine subassembly into place, let's take one last look at the work before mostly covering it up with the cowling. Time for some overspray protection before the bulk of the exterior airbrushing and weathering is started. The TBD-1 had a small attachment point for a vertical antenna cable, which is not addressed in this set, but with a few custom tasks, we can add a nice and simple element to the overall look and accuracy of our Devastator with just a tiny piece of scrap sprue. We only have two colors for the main portions of this TBD, and we'll begin with white. Decals are provided for the alternating red and white striping for the rudder. However, we'll take the time to mask off this area to include another genuine painted surface. My inexperience with this AK paint caused some loss in the pre-shading variation that had been laid down, as you can see from this 360 overview. We'll need to recover with subsequent post-shading, washes, and weathering. Benefiting once again with our initial enamel silver base coat, we can do more paint chipping and scratch effects. You can't go wrong by concentrating along panel lines, screw heads, rivets, and random wear at points that air crews and maintenance personnel tread repeatedly. I custom painted in the aircraft number 7 on the cowling, but it was a little too wide and will need to rework that later. You'll learn later why I chose number 7 rather than the numbers provided by Great Wall Hobby. A gloss coat is applied, then wash and weathering to create shadows, dirt, and grime, as well as produce tonal variations in the paint. We can add some wash to create shadows, highlighting the detail as well as establishing some grunge, giving the aircraft that used look. As with most of my used aircraft, I apply my signature panel leak streaking. The weathering powder used to build up the exhaust sooting worked out very nicely here.
Heaviest of carrier-based aircraft are the VTBs, the Torpedo Bomber Squadron. With a speed well over 200 miles per hour and a range of more than 1,000 miles, these planes are proving themselves a major offensive weapon in World War II. Able to operate from the carrier's deck with the same efficiency as from a flying field, those who man carrier-based craft must be both sailors and airmen.
We'll get the word to go any minute now. Remember, the section making contact, get your report in fast. Down to the south, you've got cloud protection. Use it.
They have but one common aim, to take and keep command of the air over the fleet in time of action.
We'll catch up now on our flight control surfaces with the rest of our model to get them ready for attachment. I decided not to paint the roundels in as I didn't want to take a chance on anything going wrong at this late stage of the build, although I had a couple of close calls. These decals were slow to react to the mark fit. These black 7s were printed on blank custom decal paper and then cut. They performed perfectly. And here, I reveal to you why I chose plane number 7 based on the kit included bureau number, decal, as well as this particular Devastator's fate. Using the exact same steps of painting and detailing the main aircraft body, we tend to the horizontal stabilizers. To produce a greater measure of fading, a little buff is airbrushed on, even though there will be a dull coat added at the end. Let's add more of that essential equipment. The main wheels are left loose for now until we roll out 180 degrees so that the molded flat spots on the tires align with the ground.
Now you have specific targets to hit, and I want you to all get hits. You can do it, you've done it in the past, and I want you to do it this time. There's one thing we've got to do, and that is have expert teamwork. Use your head, and let's give them hell.
Already runs from airport. Pilots, man your planes.
Okay, boys. Okay.
Although model manufacturers can form these stunningly small photo etch pieces, to a certain degree it seems that these parts can be almost impossible to manipulate into shape by the modeler. Usually the transparencies are put on first, but the fear of the easy line slingshotting out of the tweezers with CA glue and onto the glass is too worrisome. So, cabling first, if you please. The instructions have an inaccuracy and direct that this photo etch part be attached palm up. If you look at it as a hand, it should be palm down. Next, a dull coat is applied. I usually don't fill up my airbrush reservoir, but there was too much this time, and I didn't have the cover on initially. Uh-oh. At first I planned to mask and then airbrush the metal framing on the glass, but I decided that it would go quicker with hand brushing, and then I would gently scrape away any paint that got onto the panes with the point of a wooden skewer. It should be mentioned that there is a single piece glass option if you wish to display the cockpits all closed up. Don't forget that if you enjoyed this video or were at least mildly entertained, to leave a like to help keep the channel going, as it only runs on motivation fueled by your enthusiasm. What do you think?
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
We're coming close to the end of this project. Stay tuned after the final reveal to see the casualty list of all the TBD-1 Devastator Squadron's crew members lost at the Battle of Midway. Take care, and we'll see you later.